everyone, and welcome back to Reading Light, the podcast shining a light on different bookish topics, ideas, concepts, subjects, genres, the whatnots. Welcome to today's episode. We are in another wrap-up episode. I'm super excited for this. This one, I guess fair warning, maybe a bit shorter than the June wrap-up was. Yeah, okay. So everything's like a month behind. I'm sorry. I get my dates sometimes confused. But yeah, this one will be shorter than last month's wrap-up because there is 2 less books, which we'll kind of get into, I guess, not to give a little spoiler for what's to come. But buckle into this little episode. I hope it's still informative. I hope it's fun. I hope you enjoy hearing my little recap, maybe even comparing like what was different or all those sorts of things, you know, whatnot, all about it. So thank you for joining me for today's episode. I'm excited to have you here. I am going to try to follow the last month's sort of format into this. These aren't too super complicated episodes, I guess I would say. A lot of it kind of depends on just looking at the data, figuring out what it can mean, and talking about the books I read too. So it's all pretty laid out for me right there. But this is still fun. I still like it. And I love kind of this part of sort of the book community and such, because I think it's fun to see what other people read and what they do for the month and that whole thing. So welcome in. I will apologize in advance for the air conditioning if you can hear it. I do have it on. I did turn off my fan because that was clinking, so you won't have to worry about that. But I do have an air conditioning going. I don't know if it'll be picked up, but I am in a room where I kind of have to keep it on because I have books and stuff in here, so I do make sure this is a regulated kind of area. And then it might also be echoey in here. I am in kind of an empty-ish room. I did move. I think I talked about that either in an episode I pre-recorded, so you might hear about that later, or an episode that's already came out. I'm not too sure when I talked about that, but I did move and stuff, so I'm in the process of figuring all that out and everything. So that's kind of what's going on with me. But I guess I'll kind of just jump right into it. So what I read in July. Yes, we're looking at July. So I read a total of 4 books. And of course, if you were watching this or listening to it on YouTube, I do put up all the graphics that I'm referencing on the screen. And all of these come from Storygraph. That is the predominant app I use to track what I'm reading. So everything's pulled from there. They give you a really nice, kind of cool monthly, they call it a wrap-up. It's like a little summary, and it gives you quite a lot of data, a little bit more than I've encountered when using Goodreads. So I do prefer this Storygraph, and I think it gives me some cool insight into what I'm reading, what I'm not reading, whatnot. So sorry, I'll jump back into that. But I read 4 books last month, which is, I believe, I think I said 2 book decrease from June. Yeah, I guess that kind of makes sense. You'll kind of see why maybe when I go through it, because the year really started out with, or not the year, the month. Gosh, we're not in the yearly wrap up now. The month started off with, you would think pretty strong and on it kind of situation. But then it did fizzle, and I just took a while to actually read some of these books. I'm not sure why. Maybe I could blame the moving situation on it, which probably did contribute in some way, shape, or form. But yeah, so I did do 4 books this past month that came out to a little over 1,200 pages, which is pretty good. I don't know what it was exactly from the previous month, but that seems pretty good. 1,200 pages. And these all were read. So there was no audiobooks. There's no audiobooks. There's no listening. So that is 1,200 pages I did sit down and read. So my average rating for the month was a 4.69, which does make sense. We'll definitely get into that and how I rated the books I was reading. And it started off kind of low, but then picked up, got strong. So The highest rated reads was I read 2 Bridgerton books, so the first 2 books in the Bridgerton series, and those were, of course, made the 5-star list. And then there was a manga. I got to read the second manga in this one series, which I believe I talked about in last wrap-up, because I had read the first 2, I think, and I was waiting for this third one, and this third one happened to come out in July, and my library got it right away, so it was fantastic. So I was able to get up to date with that series, and then we'll wait to see if the next one gets announced. I know manga can take a longer time, and it's really up to, the writers. It's kind of got its own schedule or anything, and I will be a very patient reader because I did really like this series. So that breaks down my top rated reads, which actually covers most of what I read this year. So that's the first 3 books, and then the 4th book that I read this year was volume 2 of a manga. It was called Smoking Behind the Supermarket with You. It is, as I said, a volume 2. So I read the first volume and I really liked it, but I read the second one and I did not like it as much. That was probably my lowest rating this month, because I just didn't care for it too much. Maybe I hyped it up too much in my head, or it had been a while since I read the first one, but it just wasn't living up to it. So I did have to give that a little lower rating. So those are my 4 reads. Oh, did I say the title of the manga I had read? It was called Trapped by His Love, The Duke's Unexpected Proposal, and that was the other manga I read. So that was the 3rd one. And it's such a cutesy, fun, romantic kind of thing. I was really in the romancy, because I don't know if the Smoking Behind the Supermarket is going to be a romancy thing. There definitely is kind of like that tension and maybe even that slow burn, or I am completely misreading it and I see romance in places I should not be seeing it. But the other stuff I read this month was definitely romancy. I mean, it was The Duke and I and The Viscount Who Loved Me. So I would say romance is in the air, which is predominantly what I read. So that is not too shocking at all. If you've ever listened to any of my other episodes, I love romance. So my average book length was about 318 pages, which I think is pretty good. I think it's pretty decent. My average time to finish was 6 days, which is okay. I'm a little disappointed in that. I'd like to get through a book faster than one in a week, but I can tell you, right now, I'm in the middle of reading something and it's been taking me forever. I'm dragging my feet, but I once again will blame that on the move. I got no shame in saying that, but it also does kind of stink too. But it happens. Let's see. Fiction. It was 100% of what I read was fiction. Makes sense. That tracks. Romance, of course, was the highest one. Historical came in second, which that does make sense given the half of them were historical romances. You could, I think, even argue maybe one of the mangas could qualify for that, but I don't know. Don't quote me on that, because I don't know the total subgenres of that type of area. And I really pick just kind of what I want to read or what looks good. I go for romance, but I don't ever notice a subgenre specifically in manga like that. So maybe I got to expand my horizons a little bit more on that one, but that's just what I've noticed and stuff. And then contemporary and fantasy were then my last 2 sort of big areas I had focused on. Let's see. And then as I go down to this last little chart, this is pages read, and so kind of like the frequency. So it's a chart that gives one axis is every day, is the days, and then pages read is on the other axis. And I really peaked on, I think that was between the 14th and 15th. I read over 400 pages in one day. I don't have any memory of that. that's pretty crazy. The chart does go up by 100, so there is some days where it looks like I read like nothing, but it might have been like 20 pages, and it just wasn't tracked here. But another day I read, at the beginning of the month I read 200 pages in like between 1 to 2 days, and it kind of goes on so forth. It kind of dips here and there and goes back. I am curious. I didn't pull up the other graph, but I would have to imagine this would have been one of the Bridgerton books in this middle here where I was just consuming it, because it's over 400 pages read, and definitely the mangas didn't have that count. So that would make sense, though. I did get very addicted, it felt, to those books. So yeah. So mostly, if we break this down then, so the last part of this chart breaks it down by like where you were reading it, like what sort of format you were reading on. And it is broken down this time is my most was digital at 75%. So 75% of the books, which is 3 of these books, and I know exactly which 3, I can actually tell you. The Smoking Behind the Supermarket with You, The Duke and I, and actually, I take that back. It is The Smoking Behind the Supermarket with You, The Viscount Who Loved Me, and Trapped by His Love were all read digitally. They, 1 came from Libby and 2 came from Hoopla. I remember that very clearly, and I can give you a little bit more insight on that. And then one of them was print, and that was The Duke and I, because I had bought that a long time ago at Goodwill, and I never read it until now. I don't know why. They're fantastic. You think I would love that. You think I'd eat that up. I think I've talked about my way of just not looking into the Bridgerton books for like no reason. But yeah, so I did it now, and I will continue on. I'm currently reading something else. It is a historical romance, but it's by a different author, different kind of, I don't even know if it's a series, but definitely a whole different setting. It is not part of that, so I haven't continued onward. I think part of that is because these books are very popular at the library, so it's a hard time to get a physical copy or even it on Libby. My best bet is on Hoopla. I think Hoopla has all of them, if I'm not mistaken. However, trying to read on my phone all the time really hurts my eyes and is not my favorite thing to do, so I have to take breaks and stuff, and I like reading on my Kindle. It's easier on the eyes, of course, so I kind of have to go back and forth on that, but yeah, so that is kind of a simple breakdown of what my wrap-up looks like. Like I said, a little bit shorter of a month, and it's all pretty much a little straightforward, I'd say, because you can easily see, like, it's easier to keep track of 4 books, and you know how you felt, what you liked, what you didn't like. But I thought overall it was a pretty good month for books, I think. Like I said, it was all sort of romancy, sort of fun. I was disappointed by the Smoking Behind the Supermarket with You. I had been looking so forward to the second volume of that one, and I just don't know what happened. Wow. Sorry, I was looking at it on my computer screen, and I see there is 7 volumes. So I'm pretty intrigued by where this goes. Someone does consider it a rom-com, so I'm not too crazy, I guess, by calling it a romance, because that's where I was getting, and it definitely is like that slow burn, dwindling, like you gotta really like give it time. So honestly, you know what, I'm saying this and I've only read the first 2 volumes. I guess I do have to continue if there are 7 volumes. Hopefully my library gets them in, because I'm not sure what the status is on those. Because I got pretty excited when I got the second one in, but I think it might be dragging with any of the other ones. If they are all published, I could be wrong if they're all published. That's just the planned ones, but that was my disappointing read of the month. But not disappointing enough to make me stop. I'm going to reconsider, and we're going to reevaluate that one in the coming months, hopefully this year. It kind of depends on how I'm feeling, but that was good. That was quite fun, quite liked it. Still, even if I gave it a lower rating than the other ones. As I said, the Bridgerton books were fabulous. I really liked them. I like the characters. I think it's fun. I think it's personal. I think it brings such an interesting light and humor, and even some steaminess to a genre that I don't know if it always has that humor. It's definitely got that tension. It's got that sexiness. Of course, like that's a very hallmark thing about it. But I do think sometimes it lacks that humor. I think Tessa Dare is pretty good at it sometimes. So it's not completely void in the genre. Also, my AC just turned off, so maybe it doesn't sound like I'm talking in a wind tunnel now. But so it's not completely gone, as I'm trying to say, in the genre, but she does bring kind of a newer perspective, and it still follows like that social norm kind of stuff you expect in it, but it does feel a little bit more daring sometimes, definitely, than some of the other books may perhaps be. But it still follows, I think, what I would understand to be like the standards of the genre. You think I'd have this down now by how many of these types of books I've read, but it all gets a little fuzzy because you have to make sure you're in the right era, time period, that sort of thing. It's all kind of a whole thing, but both books, super good, super fun. Like I said, I will be continuing on. I'll try to read all of them. I'm debating now because I've also started watching the show, which that's the other thing, I hadn't really watched much of it. I knew enough. I liked the aesthetic, and I had watched a bit of it, but to really go in and really invest myself, it started when I started reading the books. However, then I realized the book was getting spoiled for me as I'm watching the show, or at least maybe parts of it is. I noticed there is some changes. Of course, there's going to be other perspectives that'll lead into the other books and stuff. That'll just be a little bit more than can be elaborated within the book format. So it wasn't a total, can't watch alongside, but I did have to stop it because I was like, well, I want to read the book. So let me read the book. And then I read the second book. And then I believe the third season, it skips a book and goes to Penelope's story. So now I think I'm going to read them in order. But I do get curious. Do other people read them out of order just because that's how the show goes and to get anticipation for the season or something? But this is kind of frustrating, though. I don't know why kind of frustrating. But I get it. I think I get it in the end. But yeah, so very good, very fun. And of course, I'm going to gush about the last manga I read, The Trapped by His Love. That was a good addition, good fun. I love how obsessed the characters are with one another. It's all cutesy. It's all that being swept away by a duke and being just loved, ravished, have everything thrown at you. Isn't that what we all want? Isn't that what we all are dreaming for? So it definitely lives up to that sort of thing. And yeah, it was great. It was good too. It was a lot of fun. I hope people get some recommendations for this. And also let me know, have you read any of these books? What were your thoughts? Did you love them? Did you hate them? Did you despise them? What was your idea for these types of novels and stuff? I'm very curious to hear, to see what if anyone else has opinions on them. Maybe I'm the only person reading most of this stuff, but hope not. So yeah. I'm following my little script here, and one of the questions I set for myself was, what was my favorite read? I don't know if I have a favorite one for this month. I think they all are so fun and so unique and so adoring in their own sort of ways. I know that is such a mom being like, I have no favorites thing to say, but it is true. It is kind of what I feel, that I don't really have a favorite standard of this month. They were all fantastic, super lovely. And then any goals for the next month in August? I'm not going to set a monthly goal because I do have those quarterly goals that, of course, I still have to work on and still keep in mind as I'm considering what to read and stuff. So I guess my monthly goal will be to work on my quarterly goals, because technically my quarterly goal ends in September. So August is really when you want to kick into gear. At least it ends in, I think, the end of September. I'm still figuring out how the quarters go, but so maybe that'll be that'll be my goal. Kick in for the quarterly stuff, but just to have fun and read and kind of, I hope to respect that reading and stuff. Now that I have moved and stuff and I'm unpacking and settling in, that I do think I can have like more time to read, find my routine, get more disciplined, that sort of thing. So it will come back to me. It will all come back and we'll have a lot of fun. And maybe I got to switch to audiobooks for a little bit just to give myself a break, or do read while I'm at work or something, just to give me another sort of avenue. Loosen it up a bit, it feels. So, but yeah, so that's been my little recap. As I said, I am sorry these are shorter episodes and you can expect it. It all definitely sort of depends on what did I read for the month, because I have less books I read than last month, so a little bit less to talk about, a little bit less to yap about, but I still hope you found this informative, or at least a little bit interesting. Hope you enjoy seeing what other people read. I know I love seeing what other people read and such, so I hope someone else out there does. And I hope you found the charts to be interesting. I do like the charts. I love staring at data like that, so that's part of why I do love Storygraph, and what really made me convinced to move over there was just so much more data, so much more insight. These apps are already harvesting all your data. You might as well let me see it. You might as well make it into cool, cute graphics so I can look at this stuff every month. Like, that's how I feel about like Spotify and stuff. Like, you might as well just let me see it if you're gonna collect it. So I do like that. And of course, this is all like totally like voluntary. Like, I don't have to be using a reading tracker, but I think it's also cool too. And I have my like reading goal you can set on there and everything. So working towards that, holding myself accountable, that sort of thing. So hope everyone enjoyed. I'd love to hear from you in the comments. What did you read this month? What are you hoping to read next month? Did you read any of the books I read? Just let me know any kind of insight that you're willing to give and whatnot. And I hope you're having a great week, month, year, wherever you are. I hope you're all staying cool. It is still warm out in August, but hold out. We will get to fall, and it will be nice, chilly, cool, and fun. So just hold on out. It'll all be okay. Great. Thank you so much for listening. Once again, hope you're having a lovely day, and keep on reading.